What happens when a Kryptonian travels through worlds such as Marvel, Dragon Ball, and Superseminary? Keywords of the novel. Kryptonian. Iron body with no pop-ups, Kryptonian. Iron body. Download the complete text, Kryptonian. Iron body. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Kryptonian comes to Marvel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Kryptonian comes to Marvel. If only I could experience the feeling of being a Kryptonian in my lifetime. In an ordinary house, after a busy day of hard work, the young man who came home from work opened his computer and watched the latest DC animation. When he saw the invincible and elusive Superman Clark, the young man envied him. Then suddenly, his eyes darkened and he fell into a coma. After he woke up, he found himself in a place full of English letters on the street, and he was sitting back in a public seat. The passerby next to him was startled by his sudden wake. Up and quickened his pace to leave. Where is this? The young man's mind was in chaos, and soon, a large amount of information flooded into his mind. Did I really cross the border when I went? I don't know where it exists. It fulfilled his wish and allowed him to travel. No, can you give me a deluxe version? Luther sighed and tried to impress that mysterious existence. But the mysterious existence had already left, and after dozens of calls without a response, Luther could only acknowledge it. Fortunately, I have become a Kryptonian, but I don't know if it's a movie version or a manga version. By the way, what is this place? Luther looked at the English on the street, and then he saw it. Captain America's nostalgic film is released, starring the most popular actor, Jackson, as Captain America. Tony Stark was exposed for spending spring snacks with the latest cover model last night. Thanks to not knowing if he had been exposed to the sun, Luther suddenly felt his mind clear. The English he had learned many years ago and the grades he had passed have all returned now. So he understood the words above. Wait, Captain America's nostalgic movie. Tony Stark's sleeping cover model. With a flash of lightning in Luther's mind, he immediately knew what world he had come into. Surprisingly, it's Marvel Universe. I never thought of a series. I still want to go to a more relaxed world. Luther suddenly felt a lot of pain in his brain, and a pile of information flooded into his mind. He heard a couple arguing a kilometer away and saw someone killing someone in an apartment over 500 meters away. The noisy noise and a large amount of information made Luther feel a splitting headache, as if his brain was about to explode. However, immediately after, the brain's computing power and thinking speed skyrocketed, rapidly processing this information and blocking out a large amount of junk information. Super listening. Supervision. Super brain. Luther knew that he had awakened the abilities of Kryptonians by basking in the sun. The yellow sun of Marvel World was really useful to Kryptonians, and he was worried that he might not adapt to the environment. His full potential was unleashed, and every neuron's connection emitted a vibrant and dazzling light. Luther could instantly recall anything he had read, seen, or heard. Get out of here first. He noticed that his movements had already caught his attention, especially due to the pain of unconsciously stepping on the ground, leaving 2 rows of footprints on the hard concrete floor. Who? Upon discovering that there were no cameras nearby, Luther immediately exploded and left the scene at a very fast speed. Where should we go next? Luther thought for a moment and realized that the unknown existence had only given him everything about the Kryptonian. He had just taken a photo of the glass and still looked like himself, the original product. So he should be flesh-piercing. I don't have any identity, and it's not easy to get along with someone from the heavenly dynasty here. Luther decided to seek help from kind-hearted people. Puff. In a small alley, a thug foamed and fell to the ground. Luther calmly pulled out bundles of change from him. Good brothers, of course, are these helpful street wanderers. However, Luther was well aware that ordinary street wanderers don't have much money on them, so after calmly thinking about it, he began to look for those thugs who sell goods. By the way, I can use my super speed to disguise myself and just wear a pair of sunglasses to change my hairstyle. Anyway, in the eyes of Americans, Chinese people, Little Bangzi, and Little Ri are all the same in appearance. The thug who was being targeted by him had obviously sold quite a bit, and the small bundles of change were estimated to cost several $1,000s. The Kryptonians have awakened all their superpowers, making it easy to defeat them. After Luther left, he went to find a library and next he had to arrange an identity for himself. It's great to be a free-spirited native, but Luther prefers to hide himself, especially when threatened by the Supreme Mage Guy and Captain Marvel. Learning hacking skills first requires a preliminary understanding of computer fundamentals. The library is the best place, and by the way, he also took a laptop from a thug's backpack on the roadside, which was so fast that no one noticed it. The initial stage is to learn basic commands, including DOS commands and commands under Unix/Linux. Luther felt like he was capable of anything now, and his super brain had made his thinking extremely agile. The initial learning only took him less than a few minutes, followed by the mid-term learning of all the steps to build servers under Windows, ASP, PHP, JSP. Master topics such as Google hacking, cookies, phishing, social engineering, and more. He learned hacking techniques faster than the protagonist in Endless, and the whole process took less than an hour. Electronic signatures, programming techniques, and even attack habits are all learned through learning. The FBI's firewall and network. The Pentagon. Luther even attempted to use rudimentary laptops to invade several major intelligence agencies in the United States, which are known to be attacked by various hackers around the world every day. Luther failed once and was almost tracked down. The opponent bypassed his chicken, and then Luther learned his thinking in operation techniques, and instantly completed the counterattack. Rising Tide Organization. Luther curiously searched the internet for this hacker organization, and Shockwave Woman Sky's hacking skills can be said to have reached the level of my imagination. With just a second-hand laptop, I can invade the firewall built by Tony Stark of the Divine Shield Bureau. Now that Luther has understood the hacker, he has no idea how the other party did it. However, the Rising Tide organization did not have a fixed server, and if it did not take action, it would be impossible to find it. Therefore, Luther gave up and instead arranged his own identity, attacking major banks and stealing funds from anonymous accounts. Finally, he became the illegitimate child of a company from an indescribable country and inherited a large inheritance before coming to America. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Study yourself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Study yourself. As a foreigner, Luther naturally had no intention of obtaining an American green card or naturalization. On the contrary, he used this large inheritance to invest in the stock market and went openly to Las Vegas casinos. While winning a large sum of money, Luther was also pondering a question. Why would Clark Kent, who also had a super brain, live so destitute? My adoptive parents are worried about the farm, but they can't afford it. The house is going to be taken away by the bank, but it was Batman who bought the bank to lift the siege. I don't want to expose my strength, but it's okay to be a bit smart, right? Just like now, Luther easily won $1 billion with a few $1 million at the Las Vegas casino. Las Vegas not only did not make things difficult for him, but also sent a team of bodyguards to follow and protect him throughout the journey, and arranged a high-end security hotel for him to stay in. After all, if you can win big money, the casino is actually very happy, which is like a live sign that will attract more gamblers to come. The money earned from them can quickly be recouped and even multiplied several times. As for arranging bodyguards, it's even simpler. It's just about worrying about competitors intentionally causing trouble and framing the casino. This made Luther very frustrated. She thought there would be classic scenes, but unexpectedly, they developed unexpectedly. But then he started trading stocks with this $1 billion, and of course, Luther didn't go too far because if he were invincible and had no adverse effects, he would be targeted. Wall Street regulators and the FBI are closely monitoring the illegal acquisition of securities insider information for profit. Luther was very cautious and only made investments after studying and analyzing data on his own. Then his $1 billion turned into $2.5 billion, and after this move, Luther did not continue to speculate in stocks. Instead, they chose to start a company. He switched to studying and researching biological genes. After all, Luther's heart was not that big, and he calmly accepted that there would be no problems with the Kryptonian crossing to Marvel World. He was worried that there would be microscopic and difficult to observe problems. Who knows if that unknown existence gave him the concept of Marvel World Universal Kryptonian. If not, he doesn't want to die inexplicably. Boss, you are truly the genius I have ever seen, an unprecedented genius. With a capital injection of $2 billion, Emperor Company was established. The company name comes from the monarch of the Godzilla series. Luther's first step was to find the research experts in the field of biological genetics, invite them to join the company or become his own teachers, and then Luther learned their knowledge at an astonishing speed. Anyway, there was already Tony Stark who could become a thermonuclear astrophysicist in just one night, and he was not surprising. Professor Landa, thank you for your guidance. Luther smiled and nodded, saying. He spent a month studying and can be said to have completed the knowledge summary in the field of biological genetics. If he had the thinking of a researcher, he could definitely become a super researcher. However, Luther did not have the idea of cultivating his own way of thinking and patterns. Moreover, due to his nationality and race, the Emperor Company was unable to obtain various high-precision instruments in the biological laboratory, and the American technology level in this area was locked. But it's okay, Luther himself is a super machine that surpasses all human instruments. Supervision is more advanced and powerful than all human observation technologies, and the computing and analytical abilities of the super brain also surpass those of supercomputers. It's just that there were difficulties in extracting cells. Luther has awakened his steel body in biological field, which has filled his physical resistance. In addition, he has been exposed to the sun for so many days, and it's hard to say if he can carry a nuclear bomb. At least he is confident that he can't break through his defense with missiles. Finally, he managed to extract his own cells and began studying their various reactions under sunlight. This lasted for a year, during which Luther sealed herself off and prohibited exposure to sunlight. Sample 115 is in good condition. Sample number 191 is in good condition. Sample 239 is in good condition. Luther let go of the data and breathed a sigh of relief. For a year, various samples were exposed to sunlight of different durations, environments, and intensities. The result was that all samples survived without any adverse changes. Kryptonians have strong cellular activity and can survive as long as there is sunlight. Luther, who had been out for a long time, was once again exposed to the sunlight and comfortably stretched out. In just 1 year, the Emperor Building, which cost $500 million, has also been completed. Compared to the Stark Building, which will cost $600 million in the future, the Emperor Building is more inclined towards defense, with a main steel structure, concrete-wrapped steel, alloy bottom layer, and so on, making it very expensive. Since its construction, Emperor Company has been losing money, after all. Until now Luther has only stayed in his own laboratory and no one knows what he is doing. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Starting Action. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Starting Action. Luther naturally wouldn't mind this, in fact, he had already started his own layout. Enter the field of human body enhancement. In this field, there are many competitors, such as the well-known Osborne Corporation, the military representative chasing the Hulk, General Ross of Thunderbolt, and the pioneer industry in the research and improvement of the endless virus, Kyrian. However, Osborne Enterprise has been researching in this area for many years without any results. Spider Serum was destroyed by the Parker couple and all the information fled. The danger of green magic serum has not been resolved yet. General Ross, on the other hand, firmly believes that catching the Hulk can solve the problem, research more Hulks, and the military's research on super soldier serum, among others. As for the Kyrian of the desperate virus, it is estimated that he is still overcoming the flaws of the desperate virus. It can be said that this is a huge market, and he only needs to solve the problem of being hijacked and monopolizing his company and products by others, and there is no problem. And for Luther, this happened to be no problem at all. Whoever takes action on themselves, just kill the other person directly. This is a real version of business war. More importantly, he is a foreigner who holds something that can be said to have an infinite market share. If America can't stay any longer, he can also go to other places. Do you say that Amelia is the most free and just country with existing private ownership and constitutional protection, and this situation cannot occur? Even if Luther was not a foreigner, in the face of enormous interests, these private ownership and constitutions were just toys for capitalists and tycoons. After solving the above problem, countless orders from Amelia's Ministry of Defense will come in droves, and many military leaders are very interested in the biotechnology of human reinforcement technology. It's really a headache, but it feels okay. Luther was currently reading a book with a cover called Introduction to Hypnosis Techniques. After 10 minutes, he had already put down his book and started learning online. Half an hour later, Luther was in contact with the senior management of Amelia's military. It was said to be a connection, but in reality, it was only through hacker technology that they obtained information from these military executives, and then Luther selected a general with the same rank as Thunderbolt General Ross. An hour later, Luther successfully infiltrated the other person's home and had a face-to-face meeting with them. What kind of person are you? General Kelson D. Lionwit looked at the man sitting on his sofa in front of him, wearing a black coat, sunglasses, and a big back. He did not rashly disturb the guards outside, as a handgun was naturally placed on the sofa next to the opponent's legs. Please sit down, General Lionwit. Luther smiled, and Lionwit frowned. Luther exuded a confident aura from top to bottom, which he had not even seen in a few people. If it weren't for his arrogance, it would mean he had full confidence. And a person who can sneak into their room without disturbing their own security guard is obviously not the first type. He sat down, his gaze fixed on Luther, his back also straight, his face full of military vicissitudes and a tough expression without anger or arrogance. This is a down-to-earth veteran, and it is not surprising for Luther to have this temperament. I'm here to offer you benefits, General. Don't be nervous. In Lutheran, it is said that Lionwit has already begun to enter a hypnotic state through the suggestion and induction of words and actions. In fact, in the Marvel universe, there is a very powerful hypnotist, just like Hydra, who can make a trained agent wander back and forth on the road by turning the ring in his hand, and then collide and die on a large truck. It can only be said that it's a bit mysterious. The hypnosis exerted by Luther, the Kryptonian, is even more mysterious. General Lionwit, I need you to contact several other generals with authority. Being capable is not foolishness, of course Luther cannot be without it. This hypnotic suggestion is just Luther's brainwashing method, but it is also enough to turn several military generals into his own people. This is the best solution once and for all. So, Luther successfully convinced several generals in the Ministry of Defense to sell his flagship product, the Super Soldier Eye drug, as a military deal that his Emperor Company was preparing to launch. Super Soldier Eye is a derivative of Luther's research on his own cells, not Kryptonian cells, just like how Superman can research superhuman drugs that allow humans to consume and acquire superhuman abilities. The difference is that this Super Soldier One can only increase its physical strength by twice, which can enhance the user's metabolic function and all physical functions. However, although it may seem small, in reality, even if an ordinary person only increases their physical strength by twice, their performance is very exaggerated. Basically, it's similar to Captain America and Winter Warrior Bucky. So the military is very happy, but the cost of this super soldier one is very expensive, as Luther said, so the price is naturally not cheap. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Be My Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Be My Dog. After trying out the effects of Super Soldier 1 compound, the Ministry of Defense and the America military placed a 50-year order with Emperor Company. This order states that within 50 years, all production of Super Soldier 1 compound by Emperor Company will be acquired by the military. It's equivalent to the military buying out a 50-year order from Emperor Company. You should know that this thing is not cheap, and Luther didn't feel embarrassed to ask for more. She just shouted for $10 million per bottle. By the way, during the military protest, Luther calmly added that Super Soldier 1 compound can also delay cell aging, allowing the injected super soldier to maintain a longer combat state. Anyway, after he added this sentence, the military never said anything about protesting prices again. Instead, they urged Emperor Company to produce more Super Soldier 1 compound as soon as possible. However, Luther naturally cannot accept this order. Other companies and industrial groups are expected to be extremely happy, as Osborne Industries has received a similar order and has an endless amount of funds, but they are still researching. Without this funding, it is still unknown whether Osborne Industries has 1/10 of its current scale. But Luther wants to open up markets around the world, and no one can compete with him for market share. If that's the case, why was he bought out by Amelia? When Luther refused and stated that Compound 1 belonged to everyone and was not on Amelia's side, the representatives of the military who were not controlled by Luther were very angry, saying that Luther had to comply with Amelia's laws when doing business in Amelia. Of course, even if you are not doing business in America, you must comply with America's laws. A large company that cannot afford it has solved its competitors in other countries in this way. Is Luther someone who can be threatened? I used to swallow my pride because I was an ordinary person, but now I have become a Kryptonian. There are no Kryptonites, no superpowers, and no Batman in this world. Supreme Master Koichi doesn't seem to want to care about me, so why do I have to swallow my pride? So, I am still a Kryptonian. So, without fear of the other party's assassination methods, Luther stated that he had already planned to establish a branch in a certain vodka-Euro country, and it is not ruled out that he would also find a piece of land in Asia to establish a branch. Then, Luther was assassinated. You really don't know what to do you really dare to come and assassinate me? Luther looked silently at the few guys in black clothes and pants who had fallen to the ground in front of him and had disguised themselves. All the technical information of Emperor Company has not been left on the company's computer. Luther is well aware that even if he sets up a powerful firewall, it is not secure in the Marvel world. With abnormal hackers like Sky, there are naturally weaker but equally unreasonable hackers. It's safer for him to keep everything in his own mind. Anyway, it's impossible for anyone to extract memories or anything from a Kryptonian. Those Kryptonian cells were all eaten and digested by Luther herself, with no residue left. If the military and the Ministry of Defense want to take action against the employees of Emperor Company, that's even better. Luther will go directly to Vodka and Asia to open branch offices and become the headquarters. Perhaps after investigating Luther's background, I felt that Luther was not afraid enough, so I took action directly. How many professionals with guns can't even subdue a researcher? Then they didn't expect that they really couldn't subdue them. Instead, a few professionals were easily knocked unconscious by Luther. Luther then hypnotized them and asked about their employers or the mastermind behind the scenes. After successfully obtaining the answer, Luther did not destroy them humanely, but stayed behind and slowly hypnotized and brainwashed them into his own people. He happens to lack professionals in this field, and now he has someone to deliver to his door, so there's no need to waste it. However, this is only the first attack, and if it is not successful, there will definitely be more probing. The benefits and value of Compound 1 are simply too great, and no one can resist its temptation. Luther didn't care either, he went straight to the door and then went on a hypnotic brainwashing journey. His favorite thing is to turn enemies into his own friends. Why do you have to do it so badly? Just be my lackey. These important figures are usually difficult to see and rarely appear in the public's perception and sight. However, Luther can now easily contact them, find their hiding places, and turn them into his own lackeys, swallowing up their power. Isn't that good? Really, why do you have to force me when I just want to do business with you? Luther looked at the big shot kneeling on the ground in front of him and said with a smile. Good dog, come here. Luther called out, and the other party got up with a whimper. They climbed up in front of Luther and were rewarded with a big bone. Then he really gnawed on the bones like a dog, even if it made him bleed profusely and his teeth burst out, he still ate with relish. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. From 2 billion to 50 billion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. From 2 billion to 50 billion. After Luther was attacked one after another and the behind-the-scenes cook was solved, everything calmed down. The Emperor Company also used these behind-the-scenes cook to help him stand firm and become a new enterprise. The most important thing is that in the eyes of the outside world, the Emperor Company has actually withstood the pressure from America. They don't think that being calm means having no impact at all. Only fools are so innocent, and even fools who grew up in America are not so innocent. Even after learning that Emperor Company had contacted vodka and other sensitive countries to promote Super Soldier 1 compound, Amelia ignored it and they knew that Emperor Company was not easy. Becoming a cooperative enterprise with the Ministry of National Defense means they also have a deep political influence. Although it is unclear whether the relationship between the big boss behind the Emperor Company is that of an elephant party or a donkey party. America's political system is divided into the elephant party and the donkey party, and they are constantly in a state of coercion. The elephant party is clearly the most powerful, and the current president and vice president, as well as some senior military officials, are all their people. The donkey party, on the other hand, has a majority of members who are in opposition, making it appear inferior to the ruling elephant party. But who can say for sure about this kind of thing? It's just about whether the big shots behind the elephant party and the donkey party are willing to take action. Luther didn't know about this matter, of course. Even if he did, he wouldn't care if he controlled the elephant party or the donkey party or both. Do these things have anything to do with him being a traveler or a Kryptonian? In this situation, Emperor Company quickly received many friendly visits, all of whom saw the potential of Super Soldier 1 compound and wanted to invest. However, Emperor Company has not yet accepted any investment or listing ideas. Emperor Company has suddenly turned from a state of continuous losses to profits, giving its employees confidence in their work. Who would have thought that in the past, the signboard threshold was average, and those from prestigious universities such as Ivy League could enter the company, but now they have leapt to become super giants. Monopoly, a commodity. What business is the most profitable in this world? Monopoly. And it's still a company like this that doesn't even use anti-monopoly laws, isn't it lying down counting money? America placed a full $1 billion order with Emperor Company, which may not sound like much, but don't forget that Emperor Company's investment is only a small amount, which is equivalent to half of it. Luther pondered that Amelia might not give up and planned to buy a batch to study. Don't think that Amelia wouldn't do this and would only pay major companies to buy directly, as the benefits are not so great. Now, the Super Soldier 1 compound of Emperor Company may be taken over by people like General Ross for research. But this is not a problem for Luther at all. It is the Emperor Company's advertising campaign that has sparked heated discussions throughout the United States. 3 Curved Wing Building. This is the headquarters of the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. One hot summer day, wearing a big black leather coat, the one-eyed black-skinned soy egg was looking at the news seriously. Above is the promotion of Emperor Company. Compound 1, the hope of human evolution, doubles physical strength, easily breaks world records, and breaking human limits is no longer a dream. Compound 1, Anti-Aging, maintains youthfulness. Something big happened. Nick Fury's face looked ugly and turned even darker. This sudden emergence of the Emperor Company has been quiet for a year since its establishment, except for the recruitment of researchers in the field of biology, which has not been a problem. Unexpectedly, such a big news came out of nowhere. Evolution of all humanity. If it were that simple, that would be great, but what Nick Fury sees from here is turmoil. Everyone has become superhumans. Do we also need to upgrade our weapons? How else would you subdue these superhumans? If weapons are upgraded, other countries will definitely have to follow suit, which is another round of arms race. More importantly, it is easy for great powers to say that everyone is very restrained and does not want to destroy the world. What about small countries? After becoming a superhuman, if conflicts do not escalate and destruction remains strong in small countries, will they still be called superhumans? I didn't expect that Amelia really succeeded in researching super soldiers. Nick Fury's face turned ugly. He knew that the super soldier program and human reinforcement technology had always been studied, such as Osborne Industries, but he thought it was a lifetime series. Didn't he see a Captain America appearing from World War II to now? The result is good now. $10 million can become a super soldier. Nick Fury's headache is not this, but that Emperor Company does not select customers. It sells all kinds of customers, and if they are bought by terrorists in addition, Emperor Company, a small company with no background, invented such a powerful thing and remained calm, so Nick Fury thought it was Amelia who developed the super soldier technology. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Nick Fury. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Nick Fury. The Emperor Company is nothing more than a company promoted by Amelia to cover up. Nick Fury is not a good person, and even a level 10 agent cannot have a good person. He also knew that arms smuggling could not be banned, but he was just too lazy to pay attention to the smuggling of light weapons. If arms smuggling with strategic value and significance like Stark Industries were to be pursued, Nick Fury would definitely investigate it to the end. The problem is that Luther cleverly defined Super Soldier 1 compound as a health product rather than a weapon. The definition of health products is too broad, and even if it is recognized in the pharmaceutical field, Nick Fury cannot do anything about it. Amelia's medical system is something that everyone understands, not everyone can fit in. It seems that these guys are trying to make war money. From the perspective of the medical system and Amelia's attitude, Nick Fury thought this was Amelia's new means of accumulating wealth, just like sending CIA agents to provoke conflicts and disputes, cultivate and arm terrorists, and so on. Amelia only earns money when there is war. I just didn't expect it to become a human reinforcement technology this time. These guys really don't mind the big deal. So Nick Fury plans to warn Amelia that he does not allow this mass-produced human reinforcement technology to enter the market. He can allow the Big Five to have it, because they already have the most deadly and deterrent weapons, so it doesn't matter if there is one more. But not for small countries. If a small country gets this, it must be due to constant wars and conflicts. Nick Fury plans to deploy manpower, and the situation with Emperor Company must be brought under control. Based on growth rate in sales, boss, our Emperor Company's valuation has exceeded 50 billion. Luther's secretary is an authentic British, a high-achieving graduate from the Department of Financial Management, but without work experience. After all, if the position she applied for had work experience, it meant that the problem with her previous job was either her own or that of her previous company. No matter which problem it is, it's a bit troublesome. Michelle is currently doing very well, and Luther can also understand those cumbersome formula models, saving Michelle the need for translation. Emperor Company will not participate in securities trading. Luther said calmly. So calculating valuations is meaningless. Luther doesn't intend to sell shares and stocks, so naturally she doesn't care how much price to sell. I understand, boss. Michelle couldn't understand why Luther refused to allow the Emperor Company to grow in scale. Isn't it a good thing to have someone invest? That way, the development speed would be faster. Of course, she also has ulterior motives and wants to get some shares in Emperor Company. After all, now everyone can see that Emperor Company has a large and unpredictable background, and has monopolized the market. A steady and profitable business is like a stake in Stark Industries. If you have already joined the company before it goes public, there is a possibility that the company may issue shares to employees during the listing process. If the stock rises after the company goes public, you will make money. In addition, you can also receive dividends from company stocks. According to Michelle's calculations, if divided by 1 million shares, each share is worth at least $1,000 or more. However, Michelle thought about it and thought that Luther might be someone with a strong desire for control. While listing brings huge profits to bosses, it also puts forward many regulatory requirements, exposing the company as a whole to the public eye. If the boss makes some illegal or non-compliant requirements, employees can confidently refuse using the excuse that listed company regulation does not allow it. Luther is undoubtedly a genius, and she is very handsome, very different from the Chinese people she has seen in school. This difference is not only reflected in Luther's current poetic and scholarly aura, but also in his unparalleled confidence as a Kryptonian, exuding an inner and outer aura that exudes a sense of power in every move he makes. Originally, Luther could only be considered a handsome guy among ordinary people. After a year of subtle optimization and transformation by Kryptonians, the appearance of ordinary people among handsome guys can now be said to be very outstanding and unforgettable. Michelle claimed to have seen many charming men, elegant gentlemen, and stylish men, but it was still the first time she had seen a design like Luther's. She felt that the men she had seen before could no longer be considered men, and it was difficult not to fall for them, but Luther seemed to have average interest in her. We have completed the billion-dollar order from the America government, but there are still more orders, boss. We need to expand production. Michelle continued. A billion-dollar order is equivalent to 100 units of Super Soldier Compound 1. Michelle knows that Emperor Company produces Compound 1, all of which come from Luther's underground base. She thinks it can expand production, otherwise waiting for Luther to manufacture and synthesize would be too time-consuming. The production will soon increase. Luther nodded. He had already hypnotized several researchers to produce compound number 1 day and night according to the formula. The contract is about to be signed. Those who haven't invested should invest quickly to make a profit. I have already signed the contract today, I don't know when to change the status. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Ordinary Kryptonians have limits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Ordinary Kryptonians have limits. The reason why he wants to start a company is to sell Super Soldier 1 compound. In addition to making money, Luther also planned to use this body-strengthening technique to cover up his strength. After all, Marvel World has DC Comics, but here, DC Comics are real comics, not the DC Universe. His abilities are highly similar to Superman, so perhaps people will think that he is a Kryptonian or something. Although there is no kryptonite in this world, there is magic in this world, and I don't know if there will be a red sun. Even without the red sun, it is not impossible for humans to study and analyze. For example, Tony Stark, the person cursed by knowledge, and Mr. Wonder Richard, this is a guy who can think as long as he can, and the black technology is constantly unbelievable. What if they study the spectrum of the red sun and send it to themselves? So Luther was proactive and came up with body-strengthening technology, intending to claim in the future that he was using the most advanced body-strengthening technology developed and selling only outdated products to others. This is what America's companies do, and both the America government and officials have become accustomed to it. All kinds of advanced technologies and high-end products in this country are almost purchased from companies of capitalists, such as famous brands like Boeing and General Electric. Under the guidance of profit and money, companies in this country are very active in developing and researching advanced technologies for profit. But they also won't sell the best things to America, which is actually a very easy to understand truth. If they sell the best technology from the beginning, wouldn't the outdated technology or defective products produced during the development process be equivalent to waste and have no value? This is unacceptable for capitalists who believe in maximizing profits as the only qualified capitalist. They are planning to sell even the stones for money. How could they possibly let these defective products go? Of course, it's about packaging, giving a concept, leaving an idea, setting an expectation, and then selling these outdated things to extract their value completely. It's like a generation of things being sold while developing fourth or even fifth generation products. Luther's actions, apart from making people envious and thinking he was too outrageous and hiding so much, would not make anyone think he was a natural mutant or outsider. There are many mutants in Marvel world, not mutants. These mutants are usually suddenly awakened to superpowers or other things, and they are also caused by the research of super soldier technology. They come in large numbers, and Marvel's many villains are like this. If someone is different, it is a race. Luther has too many abilities, and mutants usually only have one ability, at most 2 or 3 abilities. And he has hot vision, super power, frozen breathing, super speed, super defense, flying, and so on. It doesn't seem like it's created by mutation at all. They naturally feel that Luther is likely a fanatic fan of Superman, using technology to synthesize and transform himself, which is why his abilities are so similar. Of course, he is not in a hurry to expose his superpowers yet. Tony Stark also placed an order with us. Luther looked at the information thoughtfully. He was currently learning programming and planned to create an artificial intelligence like Jarvis to assist him in handling the affairs of the Emperor Company. He didn't need Jarvis's source code either, as it could potentially be exploited by Tony Stark for possible backdoors or vulnerabilities. Tony Stark is very interested in Compound 1, and the human body reinforcement technology seems to have no side effects so far. America is very cautious, using some for research and some for voluntary injection by American soldiers. By the way, Tony Stark also condemned the Emperor Company's sale of Compound 1 to local armed groups in Afghanistan, believing that Luther was funding America's enemies. Unfortunately, he, who claims to be just, didn't know that his company's various advanced weapons were smuggled and sold to Afghanistan, otherwise he wouldn't have been so arrogant. Under the pressure of public opinion, Luther had long been mentally prepared, partly for the probing of capitalists and partly for the actions of the self-proclaimed righteous keyboard warriors. However, for Luther, he only needed to make money, regardless of his reputation. He is currently staying in a room designed by himself, which can maximize the enhancement and exposure of sunlight. Kryptonians have an upper limit. Not all Kryptonians are super capable and can surpass their genetic limitations. Luther speculated that if he only needed to maintain such a long period of sunshine, he would quickly saturate all the cells, and then he would not be able to continue to grow stronger. But it's not necessarily the case. Maybe a long exposure can slow down his evolution. Ordinary Kryptonians have limits, so I need to figure out how to turn myself into an uncontrollable doomsday. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. New Superpowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 New Superpowers. The genes of Kryptonians are all technically blocked, and if others study them, it is easy to determine the date of destruction. It can even be said that Doomsday is a protective measure for the genes of Kryptonians, where the speed of rapid adaptation to evolution plus an indestructible body equals the embodiment of destruction. This is enough to destroy all enemies attempting to study the genes of Kryptonians. If you say Lai Tuzi can clone, then it can only be said that the plot needs it. Luther was not interested in paying attention to Marvel's plot. His mind was full of studying himself to break through. At the very least, if he could acquire the ability to adapt to evolution at the speed of Doomsday, he would not be afraid of any enemy. Unfortunately, these days of destruction are just ordinary days of destruction, not the ancient days of destruction that are truly immortal, and there is still a possibility of being killed. Through the relationship between the military and the Ministry of Defense, which were controlled by his own hypnosis, Luther obtained various high-precision and cutting-edge instruments, even with superbrains and supervision aids. However, Luther still needed these instruments for operations such as cultivating Kryptonian cells. In addition, Luther also obtained a wealth of valuable knowledge in technical drawings, which were originally one of the sealed-up World War II black technology drawings, belonging to the theoretical science that humans have yet to achieve. Unfortunately, if I had a Krypton spacecraft, I wouldn't need to start from scratch like I do now, but I don't know when I can break through 0 and reach 1. Luther forgets to sleep and eat. He doesn't need to eat anything, just bask in the sun. Day and night, we study the genes and cells of Kryptonians, as well as their learning. With the help of his super brain, Luther completed human knowledge in genetics in less than an hour, and he also learned programming to create his own artificial intelligence. Megatron, how is the situation with the samples? Luther asked about his artificial intelligence. Boss, sample number 10,000, currently all reactions are normal and there are no abnormal situations. Megatron said calmly. Destroy all the samples and cultivate new ones. Luther Fuhr, why did you fail? If you react normally, it means you have failed. What he wants now is to get some doomsday cells out and study doomsday cells. So, normal cells have little meaning to him. Megatron strictly followed Luther's orders, inactivating and completely destroying all Kryptonian cells. The viability and survival ability of Kryptonian cells are very strong. Unless Kryptonians die mentally, they can be resurrected by simply sunbathing. However, it does not mean that there is no way to completely destroy anything. With enough power, anything can be destroyed. Luther sighed and enjoyed the sunshine. The energy of the cells is also fully filled. Then Luther frowned and awakened a new superpower. This is not surprising, even though Luther has awakened all the abilities of the movie version of Superman, it does not mean that he will not awaken other superpowers. After all, even the universe is different. Who knows what the laws of Kryptonians are here? The reason Luther frowned was because it meant that uncontrollable variables had appeared. The Kryptonian rules and all information he is familiar with may be overturned. What is the ability to travel through time? Luther widened her eyes, crossing over. Where did you travel? Is it like crossing time to go back to the past or changing the future with the super Kryptonian Har? Or is it the kind of time travel he knows? If so, where will he travel, the DC universe? Can you still come back after crossing over? All of this is unknown to Luther, the uncertainty of this superpower is too great. It's probably not about crossing the world, right? How can I say that my current level and magnitude cannot support the power of crossing the world? At least wait for me to reach the level of a single universe or a heavenly father before we talk. Luther scratched his head, pondering deeply. But he is very curious. Curious enough to scratch my heart and lungs. Give it a try, it's okay to figure it out, so I don't have to keep thinking about it. In that case, I won't be able to focus on my research. Luther made the decision. To be on the safe side, he made a battle suit for himself, which contained sufficient sunlight energy. He did not seek protection, but only wanted to be able to replenish energy at any time. What protection do Kryptonians need for their bodies? The best protection is the dual protection of a steel body and a biological force field. As long as there is sunlight and the energy inside the cells is not depleted, then everything is not a problem for Kryptonians. Come on, time travel. Luther unleashed his superpowers, accompanied by a blender-like feeling, as if he had been stuffed into a narrow channel to the extreme, his whole body crushed by compression, and the Kryptonians' powerful steel body and biological field were as fragile as tofu. On an empty ground, with a loud bang, a pile of meat sauce appeared out of nowhere and fell to the ground. After the warm and bright sunshine shone on the meat sauce, a strange thing happened, and a skeleton hand bone stretched out from the meat sauce. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Unexpected World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Unexpected World, it's so special, almost squeezing me to death. Even with Luther's poetic and scholarly demeanor, he couldn't avoid being vulgar now. There's no way, who made him suffer from the crushing treatment. All the equipment on the body was crushed, and all the preparations were in vain. If it weren't for the broad daylight when he came over, he would probably have really died. Because all the energy inside the cells has been drained, this crossing superpower requires consuming all the energy of his cells, and even squeezing his vitality to complete. Breaking into pieces feels like a round trip from the 18th floor of hell. Luther's just cursing is already quite good. The most important thing now is: first find a piece of clothing, and then avoid prolonged exposure to the sunlight of this unknown world. In this regard, Luther was still very cautious. He didn't put in much effort. Judging from the rapid charging of sunlight, the sun in this world is very active and young, making it a great power source for Kryptonians. However, Luther still resisted the instinct from genes to embrace the sunshine, as he had almost recovered. The mutated version of the Kryptonian is worth an extra penny, and he doesn't want to bet on being able to mutate very well. What kind of world is this? Luther began to search for a place to obtain information, which was the computer. In terms of technological level, this world doesn't seem to be low, and Luther actually doesn't know whether he has traveled through the world or just ran to another place. It wasn't until he saw an animal walking and talking upright in clothes like a human that he realized he had traveled through time. And Luther also found something. Universal Capsule Company. The super brain quickly started the search engine, and then Luther knew what the world was. The world of Dragon Ball. Or it can be called the world of Saya Monkey and his enemies. Anyway, Saya Monkey conquers the world. The protagonists are all from the Saya family. Is it the terrifying antimatter that annihilates the Scion people in the reactor's stomach bag and only requires a meal to explode 100 light-years ago? Luther pondered, not expecting to travel to the world of the 7 Dragon Balls. The world's top martial arts competition had already been held, but there was no Jackie Chan or teacher Wu Tian. Instead, there were Crane Immortal and Turtle Immortal, just as famous. He quickly analyzed what was useful to him in the 7 Dragon Ball world. The first one is naturally the Dragon Ball, a good thing that can make wishes, no matter which traveler can miss the Dragon Ball. I just don't know if I can make a wish with the Dragon Ball on my non-local household registration. Is the wishing effect of the Dragon Ball only valid in the Dragon Ball world, or is it universal in other worlds? He didn't want to make a wish to obtain an immortal body and then run to other worlds thinking he was immortal, only to be killed. The second one is Chi. The 7 Dragon Balls are all Chi mages, except for Broly. With the enhancement of Chi, it can even withstand the attacks of the Big Bang. Without the enhancement of Chi, the Super Saiyan God will be held back by the train and unable to move. Even though they can withstand hundreds of times the weight, their bodies are still so fragile, it's really hard to understand. At the same time, Chi is almost omnipotent and can develop electrical properties of Chi, such as the Wan Guojing Tian Palm. In this way, it should also be possible to transform it into fire or ice. The most important thing is that the destructive power of gas is very strong. With a combat power of 200 points, it can destroy the moon. In terms of mass, the estimated mass of gas far exceeds nuclear energy. According to the setting of the Dragon Ball, Chi is the most fundamental energy within a living organism, and can be freely manipulated through practice or training. The energy hidden within the body of life, as well as spiritual powers such as positive energy, evil energy, courage, and vitality, all belong to Chi, which can push the body beyond its limits. In the world of Chinese boxing, represented by Tai Chi, great emphasis is placed on the exercise and control of Chi. In Dragon Ball Z, the mage Babidi invented a machine for measuring and absorbing gas, but modern technology on Earth cannot measure or store gas. However, sometimes when encouraged by others, one will gain vitality and courage. Chi may not be visible, but it does exist. This is Chi. Although Luther already had the means of energy attack, such as hot line of sight, Chi was even better. Chi can generate many special superpowers, such as the mind-reading technique mastered by Sun Wukong, touching his head to read Xiaolin's memory, and the turtle immortal incarnation Cheng Long also read the memory of Nanwu, who was short of water in his hometown, during a martial arts competition, or read it without contact from afar. Psychological communication, preventing the killing of Vegeta by Kobayashi, interjecting between the Realm King and the Elder, dream perception, perceiving the situation related to the external Shalu War during a heart attack and coma, instant movement, learned from the Adrath people, combination technique, learned from the Metamer people in the underworld, and the Chi condensation entity that still exists after merging into Vegeta, stirring it up like a spear after penetrating through Buo. Protective covers, used to prevent absorption when entering the body, and so on, are all advanced applications of Chi. They are estimated to be the contact of Chi to read the heart and transmit sound, perceive the other person's breath to teleport, coordinate with the breath to combine, and so on. These are very wonderful settings. It's not like some superpowers that rely on racial talent, they can be used by people who can get angry. This thing is so wonderful and mysterious. For example, the perception of Chi, which spans multiple light years without any transmission delay, is truly a mystical perception. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Cheat of Dragon Ball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Cheat of Dragon Ball. According to convention, Luther first studied the sunlight on his cells in the Dragon Ball world for a period of time. Of course, his daily life is no longer as afraid to be exposed to sunlight as in Marvel world. He has developed the ability of biological force fields to filter sunlight. Research has found that his cells are more active under the sunlight of the Dragon Ball world. I don't know if this kind of activity is good or bad. But it's okay. Luther quickly found the Crane Fairy. Compared to Turtle Immortal, Crane Immortal is obviously better at speaking, and as long as you give him money, he can learn the development of Chi from him. Luther was very reserved when facing the Crane Immortal, although the Crane Immortal did not have the turtle-style Qigong that the Turtle Immortal could push away the moon, and the destructive power of his breath was terrifying. Luther also did not know if he could handle it now. At the same time, he also needs to make sure if he is angry. If not, he will have to go find the Dragon Ball and make a wish. With the Kryptonian super brain and body control ability, the Crane Immortal didn't take Luther seriously. You spend money, I'll teach you, it's just that simple. As a result, Luther learned Crane Fairy Flow in less than an hour and further learned Chi. This surprised the Crane Immortal, to the point where he felt astonished. He had never encountered an unreasonable genius like Luther before. Is this Chi? After learning to be angry, Luther immediately felt stronger. This kind of Chi fills the whole body, strengthens the feeling of the body, and is very intoxicating. What a powerful aura, disciple. Your strength has already surpassed mine. Maybe even my younger brother is not your opponent anymore. The Crane Immortal exclaimed excitedly, feeling how powerful Luther's aura was. It was a towering pillar of energy. And he doesn't need to teach Luther how to control the Chi, Luther can restrain this massive Chi on his own. This is undoubtedly a genius, beyond imagination. Ah, thank you, Master. That's all for the reputation of our master and disciple. Luther casually dropped a bundle of banknotes. Wait. Are you leaving now, Luther? The Crane Immortal looked at the large bundle of banknotes, which used to feel very fragrant on weekdays, but now it seems that they no longer smell good. He felt that Luther was still more fragrant. Goodbye. Luther's explosive super speed disappears. He felt his source of energy constantly gushing out, and the Kryptonians' energy was beyond imagination, to the point where Luther didn't even know his current combat power. Anyway, when he didn't have the awakening energy, he felt that the Crane Immortal could barely compete with him, but he retained strength, so the combat power calculated by the 7 Dragon Balls may be over 100 points. Now, I don't know. Because under the strengthening of Chi, his current intensity is beyond imagination. Let me think, what else is worth taking with the 7 Dragon Ball, such as unleashing its potential with Super Divine Water? Luther thought of the supernatural water, which was different from the previous supernatural water. The supernatural water was actually ordinary water, and the supernatural water, like its name, had unpredictable divine power. Super divine water can unleash one's own potential and greatly enhance combat effectiveness, but it is highly toxic. People who drink super divine water must first have a pure heart, otherwise they will be poisoned to death by super divine water. Super divine water is a treasure left by the gods on earth, and humans must first resist toxicity to unleash its potential when drinking it. And Shiendo, there's no need to say much about the incredible level of this thing. The problem is that it can't be taken away because the passage is too narrow. If the potential unleashed by the supernatural water is that of a gorilla, is the potential unleashed by the Kryptonians the day of destruction? Luther pondered, as for whether he would be poisoned to death, jokingly, while the Kryptonians were sunbathing, it was like others constantly eating enhanced versions of fairy beans. If it could really poison a Kryptonian, that would be a strange thing. Finding Carlin Tower is very simple, and Luther doesn't need to climb up, just fly up. What kind of person are you? The cat fairy on the tower immediately became alert when he saw the sudden appearance of Luther. Because it sensed Luther's aura, the constantly surging and majestic aura. I have no ill intentions, cat fairy. Luther said to the cat fairy. What are you doing here for? The cat fairy asked. I want super divine water. Luther smiled and said. Do you actually know about the supernatural water? Did that guy Wu Tian say it? The cat fairy was somewhat surprised. However, you have to consider carefully that those who have drank the super divine water so far have all died. It's okay, isn't there anyone else who succeeded? Luther shook her head. Okay. The cat fairy did not refuse, as it turned around and took out a teapot with the word, God, from the room. Luther breathed a sigh of relief. It was a comic version of the supernatural water. If it were an original animation, one would have to go to the northern maze and face the test of inner darkness in order to meet a mountain god and obtain the supernatural water. Luther didn't know if he had the patience to make such a trip. Drinking so much is enough. The cat fairy poured out a cup and handed it to Luther, saying, End of this chapter.